Hello and welcome back to Twinhammer. Thomas here and very excited to be bringing you our Vespid Stingwings full guide for Kill Team. So we are going to be going through an intro plus playstyle and lore, operative selection, faction rules, how the team plays, strengths, and weaknesses. We'd love to hear your feedback, so please always remember to like and comment, and we'd love to hear you. All right. So, getting into Vespid Stingwings. Vespid Stingwings are one of the first teams of this new edition, launched in the Hivestorm box set alongside Tempestus Aquilons. We have 11 operatives on the team. We've got 10 Vespids plus an oversight drone. We have an 11 operative kill op team. So on the kill op chart, they count as 11. They've got 5 specialists, 5 warriors, and 1 drone. And the drone, unlike the drones from the stealth suits, is not expendable. If you kill it, it does count towards the kill op. They are masters of maneuverability with their faction rule Fly. They only have 2 APL and no way of getting to 3 APL, so no comms type operative at all. But they are very efficient because they're highly maneuverable, and each of them can be quite good in both melee and shooting. So even though they only have 2 APL, they are quite efficient for each body. All right, getting into the team lore. They are an insectoid race aligned with the Tau Empire. They're capable of highly maneuverable flight. They often serve as highly effective auxiliaries in Tau forces. They're highly resilient organisms possessing not only considerable physical strength, they also have strong radiation immunity, which we'll see show up in the rules. They have chitinous barbed exoskeleton that encases their bodies. From the Tau, they gained armor and weaponry and a Vespid communion helm that enables them to freely communicate with other races. All right, and here we see some different types of Vespids. You can paint them in different ways to represent different strains. All right, and the playstyle is, I would sum it up as simple and effective. They're highly maneuverable, they're explosive, so you can deliver high damage in one shot, as we'll get into. They're positional, so you want to make use of their ability to get into positions to threaten, and they are two-way threats, so they're pretty good in both shooting and melee. Just before we get into the deep dive of rules, just a reminder, we have a 10% discount code with Crossfire Games. They have high quality kill team accessories, from tokens to card sorters to really cool dice to spaces to store your kill team, to scorecards, and everything you need. I highly recommend you check out Crossfire Games. They are incredible. You will find a 10% discount code in the description below. All right, getting into the operative selection. We have 11 operatives, as we mentioned before. You have to take the strain leader, which has the helm. You have to take an oversight drone, and you have to take 9 stingwings, 4 of which are specialists, and then the rest can be warriors. So you basically have the leader, 4 specialists, 5 warriors, and the drone. All right, getting into the team profiles. So they are mainly similar with a couple of exceptions, as we'll see. So your main profile of the Vespid will be 2 APL, 6-inch move, a 5-up save, and 9 wounds on a 28mm base. Then we have a couple of exceptions. The Shade Strain, which has a bit extra armor, has a 3-up save. The Strain Leader has 10 wounds instead of 9, and your Oversight Drone is going to be the most different, with a very unique profile. It's got an 8-inch move, 2+ save, and 5 wounds. So very low wounds, but very high movement and very high save. And it's on a 25mm base. All right, getting into identifying the operatives. So when you're looking for it, the strain leader is the leader of the team, and he's going to just have that helm that's going to separate him. Everything else is kind of similar, so look for the helm. The oversight drone is obviously the easiest to look for. It's a small little drone. The shade strain has a pistol version of the neutron blaster, has a grenade in its hand, and it has light stealth suit looking camouflage on it. The Sky Blast has a neutron grenade launcher, which is a big looking gun. The Swarm Guard has a flamer, which is going to look slightly similar, but the nozzle is a little bit more narrow. The long sting has a neutron rail rifle, which has a distinctive look with a hollow middle with laser in the center. So this will be your big grenade launcher, your flamer, and your sniper. Then we have the warriors, which are all going to be armed with neutron blasters. All right, now just getting into a quick look at the overall profile. Here we have the strain leader. We've got a neutron blaster, and he hits on 3s with 3/3 devastating 2. We've got his claws. A couple things to point out. Communion helm. During each of the operatives activation, you can spend 1 communion point for free. And a big thing, when you are selecting your operatives for the battle, you can also select 1 Vespid Stingwing strategy ploy whenever this operative is in the kill zone, isn't within control range of enemy operatives. That ploy costs you 0 CP. So really nice. As long as your strain leader's in, you're going to be getting some CP efficiency. And we're going to get into which one is best to pick afterwards. All right, here we see that the oversight drone doesn't have a shooting profile. It just has a combat profile where it could just basically ram someone, and it can't perform any other actions other than aerial guidance, which is this support action here, charge, dash, fallback, fighter, reposition. You treat it as counting 1 less for APL marker. You use the top of its disc for visibility. If it has a conceal order and is in cover, it can't be selected as a valid target except with being within 2, which is basically super conceal. And when you're shooting against this operative, you ignore the piercing weapon rule. So again, 2-up save and piercing doesn't work against it. So it's quite powerful in terms of shooting defense. Best way to kill the oversight drone here would be to just charge it and fight it. But to shoot it, it's actually quite durable, even though it only has 5 wounds. Now, it has a special ability called aerial guidance, which is a support action, which means that it can be extended by the comms device. Basically, aerial guidance means that if the drone can see an enemy operative, whenever one of your Vespids is within 6 of the drone, it's going to get lethal 5 and saturate when shooting an opposing operative the oversight drone can see, which is going to come into play. Basically gives out lethal 5 and saturate. So you want the drone overlooking the battlefield ideally, giving out lethal 5 and saturate. The Shade Strain. Shade Strain is a unique operative. It has 3-up save, so also really good save. It has a ghost rig, so it's actually got a light version of the stealth suits rules, where if it has a conceal order, it cannot be selected as a valid target within 6 unless it's within 6 inches of the operative trying to target it. Note that this rule has no effect if this operative isn't selected as the valid target. Example, if it's a secondary target from blast weapon rule. So you have to get within 6 inches to target the Shade Strain. It's camouflage, so it also ignores the piercing weapon rule when getting shot against, and all cover saves are retained as critical successes. This rule has no effect if this operative isn't selected as the valid target, for example, getting blasted on again. So very durable against shooting as well. So both the drone and Shade Strain are quite durable against shooting. And we'll see that it has a grenade that's a limited 1 and a neuron sting, which is an 8-inch version of the neutron blaster. The long sting is the sniper. We're going to get to that. It's got a neutron fragment. If it shoots someone, doesn't kill it, it could do additional damage. We have the Sky Blast, which is a long-range grenade launcher, which can also give a fallout token and do extra damage there. We've got the Swarm Guard, which is a flying flamer, which can fly over different targets and flame up multiple different targets, which is very cool. And then we've got the Warrior, and the main thing that the Warrior has is Warrior Instinct. Whenever this operative is shooting, if you don't spend communion points during that sequence, its neutron blaster has the accurate 1 weapon rule until the end of that sequence. So just a little benefit if you don't use a communion point, but we will be using those a lot. And we are going to get into the faction rules now. So Fly is basically extremely flexible way of moving your pieces around. And when you're performing an action which it moves, it can fly. If it does, don't move it. Instead, you're going to remove it from the kill zone and set it up wholly within a distance equal to its move stat, horizontally with the original location. In Tomb World, you obviously can't fly over walls, and you can't fly through an open hatchway. Note that it gains no additional distance when performing the charge action. It must be set up in a location it can be placed, unless it's the charge action. And unless it's the charge action, it cannot be set up within control range of an enemy operative. So really useful because it can move over obstacles. It can be done from under a vantage, unlike the Murder Wing. It allows for asymmetrical movement, and you don't have to measure to climb or measure to kind of go over anything, you just can do it for free, which is really makes this team very highly maneuverable. All right, getting into the faction rules, we have a faction rule called Communion. So basically, Communion points are a faction resource that you're going to need to spend to do mission actions, such doing any crit op missions or tac op missions. Basically, it's meant to represent that the Vespids are kind of bugs that aren't really used to doing things that are non-aggressive actions. So anything mission-wise, the Tau basically are the ones controlling them to allow them to be able to do these. So you have to generate these faction points to allow them to do anything that isn't just a straight attack to the closest nearest enemy operative. So we're going to gain D3 communion points +1 if a oversight drone operative is in the kill zone. Communion points are used as follows. Whenever a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative is performing the shoot action, it can only target the closest enemy operative within 8 inches of it unless you spend one of your communion points. For rules with the blast and torrent weapon rules, only the first target must be selected in this way. So basically, you can only shoot the person closest to you within 8 inches. Otherwise, you have to spend a communion. Whenever a Vespid Stingwing operative performs the charge action, it must end the action within control range of the closest enemy operative unless you spend one of your communion points. So again, unless you're charging the person closest to you, the operative closest to you, you need to spend a communion point. Whenever you would perform the pickup marker or mission action, you must also spend one of your communion points like we discussed. Whenever a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative is shooting, you can spend one and only one of your communion points to reroll one of your attack dice. And just a little FAQ question, if there are no enemy operatives within 8 inches of a friendly operative, do I need to spend a communion point to target an enemy operative within 8 inches from it? And the answer is yes. So they're basically scanning their immediate surroundings. If they have to shoot anyone outside of that, you still have to spend a communion. So basically you gain 2 to 4 communion points per turn. They could stack and be used later, which is a change from the start of the edition, because before they didn't, you'd have to use them all in the same turn, but now they can stack and you can bank them. And the drone is unaffected by these. Obviously, they're representing the Vespid's nature, so the drone is actually the one supposed to be helping them out. Here we see 2 faction equipments. The Convergence Stimulant. Once per turning point, a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative can perform the pickup marker or mission action without you spending a communion point. And the Neural Stimulant. In the ready step of each strategy phase, when determining how many communion points to gain, you can roll 2d3 and select 1d3 to use. So we have 2 of the faction equipment geared towards helping you with these communion points, making it so you don't have to spend during a mission action. And then we see at the end here, we have 1 rule from the Vespid Strain Leader. Like we saw, once during each of these operatives' activations, you can spend 1 communion point for free. So for example, if you're shooting with the leader, the Strain Leader, and you want to get the reroll, you can use that communion point for free to get the reroll, as we see number 4. Okay, getting into shooting. So they have, as we saw in the profiles, neutron weapons. So neutron weapons are any weapons with the name neutron in their name. Example, neutron blaster, neutron grenade launcher. Whenever a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative moves or uses fly, its neutron weapons have the piercing 1 weapon rule until the end of the turning point. So even if you're just moving or flying, basically their vibrations generate the neutron pulse and you get piercing 1 on your neutron weapon. So if you stood still in shot, you don't get piercing 1 because you need to move to get the vibrations. Neutron Overload is a firefight ploy, and this is one that connects with the neutron weapons. Use this firefight ploy when you resolve a critical success for an operative that's shooting with a neutron weapon during an activation which it moved or used fly. If the target's within 4 inches of it, inflict D3 additional damage. So it's a way of, if you push through a crit within 4 inches of an enemy operative, you can push through D3 additional damage, which is really nice. All right, getting into the main weapon profile. So we saw them in the operative profiles, but here they are listed all together so we can get a good sense of how the team shapes up with its shooting. We can see that the Warrior and Strain Leader have the same type of blaster, except the Strain Leader hits on 3s instead of 4s. We've got the Shade Strain, which is the camouflaged one with the pistol version, which is the Sting, and a grenade. So the grenade also has Blast 2, but you can see the profiles pretty much 3-3 Dev 2 across the board for the neutron guns. We have the grenade launcher, which is 3-3 Blast 2, Dev 2, neutron bombardment, which we're going to take a look at. The Long Sting is the sniper rifle version of it, the rail rifle, and that has, instead of 3-3, it has 4-4 Dev 2. And then if it's if it only dashes, it also gets a lethal 5 and 4/4 dev 2 in the long sting. The Swarm Guard Flamer is 3/3 hitting on 2s, range 8, saturate, torrent 2, or you could do the flyby, the sky torch. So really good shooting, a lot of access to dev 2, which is very, very powerful. It's one of the most powerful things of this team's shooting. Good access to blast. We could see here between the sky blast and the shade strain, we have 2 sources of blast 2, and then we also have torrent 2 from the Swarm Guard. So lots of ways of getting multiple shots off with these really good shooting profiles here. All right, and now we're going to get into the rules that help with that shooting. So you're hitting on 4s mainly, but we have a strategy ploy called Airborne Predators. And this is whenever a friendly Vespid operative moves or uses fly during its activation, its weapons have the balanced weapon rule until the end of that activation. This is the one we're going to be using the commune rule from the strain leader to get for free throughout the battle, because this will affect both shooting and melee, and having this on throughout the entire battle is going to be very, very helpful. All right, whenever a friendly Vespid operative is shooting, you can spend 1 of your communion points to reroll your attack dice, which is really nice. We saw that before. And the aerial guidance from the drone, we've seen that before. So basically what you want to try to set up is you get 2 rerolls, 1 from Airborne Predators, 1 from communion points, lethal 5 from the aerial guidance of the drone. That we want to trigger extra crits so we can trigger automatically devastating 2. As soon as you roll crits, you're doing 2 damage to your opponent's model, which that's a very powerful thing about devastating 2. Then we're going to try to be moving and shooting to get the piercing 1 from the neutron blast, the neutron weapons, and then we're going to be aiming to get those blasts off. So if you try to get this stack going, you're going to be taking even elite models down really quickly, because you're going to be getting so many dev wounds going through their high saves. And this could come from so many of your operatives have the same profile as we saw. So it really is a good profile that most of your team has access to. Here we see extra damage. We have the neutron fragment from the rail rifle from your sniper. This is if the target of this weapon is incapacitated, but you resolve any attack dice, the target gains 1 of your neutron fragment tokens. Whenever an operative that has 1 of your neutron fragment tokens is activated, inflict D3 damage on it for each neutron fragment token it has. So basically you're lodging a piece of this neutron into them, and it's slowly sapping them whenever they are activated. So really good against elites. If you don't kill them right away, you're going to be doing D3 damage to them when they activate. And we have the neutron grenade launcher. So as soon as you target someone with the neutron grenade launcher, you're going to place 1 of your neutron fallout tokens within the primary target's control range. And then once during each enemy operative's activation, as soon as it's within 2 inches of your neutron fallout markers, inflict D3 damage on that operative. Multiple markers aren't cumulative. This works really well if you're shooting an operative on an objective marker that's contesting an objective marker. You can basically create a little bubble where you're going to damage any opposing operative that comes in. And remember, your Vespids are actually immune to this because they have highly resistant to radiation. So they're immune to this, whereas any opposing operative going in there is going to take damage. Neutron overload, we saw that before. You can actually inflict D3 extra damage if you're within 4 and you strike with a crit. So a lot of ways of getting D3 damage, chipping away at operatives with large wound counts or good saves. These are all extra ways of getting damage in. Now we're going to look at the Flamer, the Swarm Guard with the Sky Torch Assault. So basically you can fly over people with an extra 2 inches, so you can get an 8-inch fly, and whoever you pass over is going to take the shooting profile of the Sky Torch, which is 4 attacks, 2 ups, 3/3, and it's got saturate and torrent 0 to just represent that you still get the torrent rule, so lethal 5 on Into the Dark or Tomb World, for example. And here they're showing, for example, in Tomb World, you're going to bend this around a wall if you need to. If you're trying to get a torch zone going, you're going to basically go with the base of your Swarm Guard. So really good ways. And a very interesting thing you can do is it doesn't specify that you have to only target enemies. So if you have a Vespid that's wounded and your opponent is using it as a platform to stage a melee threat, you can actually kill your own model by shooting against it with the fly torch, flying over it. If you pull it off, and then that will kill your own model, which will open up your opponent to be shot by you, which is a really interesting little bit of tech from the Swarm Guard. All right, let's take a look at melee close combat. So I like to use this team a lot of the time as a melee team as well, because we're going to see that their melee upon first look doesn't look that good, but we'll see a stack that they can do that will make this feel a lot better. So their main profile throughout the team on all the Vespid models are 3 attacks, 4 hitting on 4s, 3-4. The Oversight Drone has 3 attacks hitting on 5s, 1-2. And here we're going to see a melee stack that is very interesting. So we have the Airborne Predators like we saw before. If you move or use fly during your activation, you're going to get balanced until the end of that activation. Then we see a couple faction equipments that are going to help with melee. We have the Accelerant Stimulant that whenever a friendly Stingwing operative excluding Oversight Drone performs a charge or dash, it can move an additional 1. If it uses fly for this action, you can set it back up 1 inch further away. So you can essentially get a 7-inch flying charge or a 9-inch regular charge. Should be an inch there, not a foot. 9-inch regular charge. Aggression Stimulant. Whenever a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative excluding Oversight Drone is fighting, its melee weapons have the ceaseless weapon rule. And this is only when fighting, but you will get ceaseless. So you're going to have balance and ceaseless if you have the Aggression Stimulant and Airborne Predators up. Then they have another strategy ploy called Sting. You improve the hit stat of friendly Vespid Stingwing operatives claws by 1, and those weapons have the lethal 5+ and shock weapon rules. So basically here is the regular profile, and here it is after Sting. So you're now hitting on 3s with 3-4 lethal 5 shock. So when you stack that all together, you're actually going to get balanced ceaseless, which is kind of pseudo relentless, which means you're pretty much going to be re-rolling all of your misses with lethal 5 and shock, which means you can strike and parry at the same time. And then if you do hit with any crits, you also have an access to Vicious Venom. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative is fighting and you strike with a critical success. You can inflict D3 damage. So just like that neutron overload in the shooting, you can also inflict D3 extra damage in fighting and you're striking with a crit. So really good ways of what looks like just 3-4 damage can almost be 7 damage coming through from any of your operatives, which is very nice to have. So this is team wide, and it's really, really nice because your entire team can actually have pretty respectable melee. And I've had a Vespid warrior take down a striking scorpion after getting charged, so there it can be quite potent, and your melee is actually quite respectable. All right, let's take a look at some movement tricks. So we have the Ocelli. You can use this firefight ploy when you perform the shoot action during an activation which it's used fly. So basically it's going to be counting as being 3 inches higher than it is, and it's going to get all of those rules for vantage. So basically the cool thing about this is you could use it on Tomb World and actually get Seek Light in close quarters. So it's going to act as though you're on advantage even though you're not, and that means that you can target people behind light cover, which is really nice. Then we have Darting Flight, which is a really interesting one because you can use this firefight ploy when you perform the reposition action. Until the end of that action, it can move an additional D3 or be set up an additional D3 inches away if it uses fly. In either case, it cannot perform the shoot or flight actions for the rest of the turning points. So if you really want to get an operative into a different position, you have this ability to get this explosive movement with Darting Flight to get an extra D3 movement. And if you combine that with Accelerant Stimulant, if you get the 3 on the D3 and then you have 1 extra inch for dash, you can pretty much get a flying move of up to 13 inches, which is almost half the board. So all of a sudden, your Vespid can move quite a huge distance across the board. So really nice explosive movement here. If you want to, for example, fly onto your opponent's objective, they've abandoned it thinking you're not going to get there, you can use this extra movement to get there, which is really nice. Okay, survivability. This team is actually surprisingly durable as well because they have a couple of protection ploys for both melee and shooting. So the melee one, we have Hardened Exoskeleton. Whenever a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative is fighting or retaliating, normal damage of 4 or more inflicts 1 less damage on it. This can be combined with the shock, as we saw earlier, so can be very strong to help you survive melee, especially against elites, which have usually 4 damage normal. You can actually survive a little bit more on that. So now let's take a look at aerial agility. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly operative while counteracting or during an activation in which that shooting operative was moved or set up, roll 1d6 whenever an attack dice would inflict normal damage. On a 5-up, ignore that inflicted damage. You cannot ignore more than 1 attack dice per shoot action in this way. So you can fully ignore an attack dice damage, normal damage, which is very strong against highly mobile shooting teams, for example, Kazakhstan, because they're going to be trying to quickly get into your face to shoot you. And in that case, you will be rolling dice. Any attack dice that would inflict normal damage, you can block with a 5-up. So they've got really nice shooting against teams that want to move and shoot them. Sometimes people think that you get it when your Vespid operative moves and then gets shot after. No, it's the shooting operative that's moving. It's meant to be, they don't get a clear shot on you because they're on the move. So it's actually the shooting operative that's moving that allows you to get this. If an operative stays still and shoots you, you can't get aerial agility. All right, let's take a quick look at scoring. So they have access to Seek and Destroy and Recon. And I would say the 4 best for them would be Rout, Dominate, Flank, and Retrieval. Because Rout, you can pretty much get into your opponent's face with your maneuverability and shoot them if you wanted to go that route. Flank, you're highly maneuverable and have a lot of operatives, so you could play that as well. You don't have a lot of APL, so it could be nice to do one without needing a lot of APL. But I think the 2 best ones now are Dominate. Dominate because you can get 2 points for killing an elite, which is really nice, 12 wounds or more. And Retrieval. Retrieval I use to great effect, even though you only have 2 APL. Because you can retrieve on both the mid and your home objective, you can just go and retrieve, get those 4 points, and then that's all you need to do. You only need to spend 2 APL on it the entire game, and it's quite effective. So I found it to be really nice to just kind of play a retrieval game and then just use all my other operatives to attack. Because you have 11, you have quite a bit of extra APL to just go and attack and try to play crit. So I found Retrieval and Dominate to be the most effective for this team. All right, and so that's going to conclude our guide. And just a reminder, if you need anything Kill Team, we highly recommend Top Shelf Co. and CHIMERA Gaming. They're really amazing pillars of the Kill Team community in Canada, and we highly recommend checking them out for any of your Kill Team or hobby needs. They're going to have everything to set you up there. Thanks for watching. Let us know if you like this style. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, Vespids are a very, very good team for beginners or advanced players. They are very easy to use and they're a lot of fun. If you like both a bit of shooting and combat and you just want a refreshing take of not having to measure over buildings, we highly recommend trying the team out, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all very soon.